Good morning, Simmers. This is your captain speaking, or good evening, afternoon, uh, wherever you may be. Currently, it is at record time. It is morning in San Diego, and it's raining fairly well, so good IFR weather. This is the fourth of 4 videos that we are preparing to discuss Pilot2ATC and Microsoft Flight Simulator, and how these two applications work together. In the previous videos, we created a route within Pilot2ATC from San Diego to Los Angeles, and in this video, we're going to fly that route. In the last video, we looked at synchronizing the route within the cockpit with the route created in Pilot2ATC. Talked about how to tweak those so that the route looks the same in both, and we're going to put that to the test in today's video. Appreciate your coming to view this today, so let's go ahead and get in the cockpit. And while we're in the cockpit, we'll go ahead and get the cockpit up and running and connect up the Pilot2ATC and get rolling. Turn on our battery switch, wait for our Garmin's to come up, and you can see we have a fairly strong storm in the vicinity, and so that makes for good IFR weather. So let's get our, turn our interior lights on, see what we're doing. Get our fuel tanks turned on, and cutoff valve turned off, and beacon light on. We can, I think we can do without the interior lights now, and let's start it up. Wait for NG to come up to about 20, and then we can take our prop out of feather and conditioner out of cutoff. It looks like the engine is running now, so we can turn the starter off. Alright, so far we're in good shape on the tarmac. Let's go and take a look at Pilot2ATC. Get in, ready. We already have the flight plan in Pilot2ATC, so all that we need to do now is connect up and send the file off to ATC so that we can then contact them and get clearance to go. So we connect to the simulator by clicking this button down here on the bottom. Wait a few moments for the connection to be made, and that is the successful tone. The simulator is connected. You'll notice down here in the bottom right, the recognition engine is installed and grammar's loaded. Those 3 things have to happen correctly in order for everything to work. We're given an ATIS frequency and the control delivery frequency, and those frequencies have been loaded up into COM1 and standby by our co-pilot. Co-pilot's going to help us do a good bit of work in this flight, and we'll fly the plane, and the co-pilot will do most of the communication with ATC. That's the way we set up Pilot2ATC. You can set it up otherwise so that you do most of the radio communication as well, but this is a good way to get started for learning purposes. Next thing we do is to validate the flight plan. One thing that happens here is that the top of descent is calculated in the flight plan, and you see it here where the green arrow is pointing. Now we file it with ATC. And that is all that we need to do for that. Now we want to contact ATC and get clearance, or well, first we want to get ATIS, but our radio's turned off, so we'll go back into the cockpit and turn on our avionics switch.
San Diego International Information Charlie, 51 Zulu, winds are 300 and 5 knots. Visibility 10 miles. Skies clear. Temperature 20, dew point 0. Current altimeter is 3021. Arriving and departing runway 27. San Diego International Information Charlie, 51 Zulu, winds are 300 and 5 knots. Visibility 10 miles. Skies clear.
Unfortunately, the Pilot2ATC is not getting the correct weather information from the simulator, actually from Rex Weather Force, and that's a glitch in this demonstration that I haven't figured out how to make it work yet. But hopefully that's something I'll be able to figure out later on. But it's not going to affect our flight very much. We'll just use the B key to update the altimeter settings whenever we need to do that. To turn off the ATIS, I clicked this label here that will cause these radio frequencies to swap. Now we are connected to the Kansas City clearance delivery, and that gives us the ability to ask for our clearance. Click this button right here, we'll get the speech assistant to come up. And under the speech assistant, there are several things that it will help us to say to ATC during the flight. And there are 3 types of speech here. There's a request, information, and report. A request is something that you are requesting of ATC. Information is something that you wish to get from ATC. It's a little confusing there, but you'll get more familiar with the difference between request and information as you use this application. Finally, the report is where you would make a report to ATC, like a report that the airport is inside or the runway is inside, and things of that nature, similar to that, changes of frequency and so on. So right now we want to make a request, so we'll keep it on the request option, and then over here we'll select clearance. And now down below there are various things that it suggests that we could say, and one of them is this very top one where it says give the call sign ready to copy IFR clearance. When we click on that, over here on the right hand side in yellow is the suggested text with the call sign filled out. Kodiak 785 ready to copy IFR clearance. You have to have the call sign included in your configuration to make this work. So we can either say this and allow speech to text to take over, or we can ask Pilot2ATC to say it and make it easier on ourselves. We'll use the speech to text to start off, and then we'll use say it for most of the other opportunities we have to talk to ATC. Kodiak 785, ready to copy IFR clearance. Apparently did not hear us. Let's try it again. Kodiak 785, ready to copy IFR clearance. Well, imagine that. Let's go over to our config. I wonder if we're actually recording. We're not, well, yes, we are. It does say that it can hear us. But it's not, I'm not getting very much modulation. Hopefully that's all right. Let's check out our settings here. I don't recall exactly where we go to configure the microphone, but and I don't think it's there. Okay. Kodiak 718, ready to copy. Looks like that should work. Kodiak 718, ready to copy IFR clearance.
Aircraft calling clearance delivery, say again with your call sign.
Kodiak 718, ready to copy IFR clearance. Well, unfortunately, something is wrong with the microphone connection, so we'll just use say it for all of the communication.
Kodiak 785 ready to copy IFR clearance.
Kodiak 785 is cleared to Kilo Lima Alpha X-ray. Climb via the CWARD2 departure, with the SLE transition, then direct to Tango Romeo November Delta Oscar, then is filed. Expect departure runway 27. Maintain 12,000 feet. Departure on 125.15. Squawk 6556.
Kodiak 785 is cleared to Kilo Lima Alpha X-ray. Climb via the Quad 2 departure, with the SLI transition, then direct to Tango Romeo November Delta Oscar, then is filed. Maintain 12,000 feet. Departure on 125.15. Squawk 6556.
Kodiak 785 read back correct. Altimeter 3021 contact ground on 123.9er when ready to taxi. Have a good morning.
Altimeter 3021 ground on 123.9er Kodiak 785.
All right, so we've been given clearance to fly to Los Angeles, given a transponder number. You may have noticed me changing the transponder here. The transponder code is 6556. We set it to active. We have to get in our cockpit. Well, before we get in our cockpit, let's go ahead and request our taxi. I think we can go now. You'll notice that the radio frequencies have changed again. Our co-pilot did that for us. We're now on the ground frequency. Go to taxi, and we'll just call in, tell them that we're ready to go.
Kodiak 785 ready to taxi.
Kodiak 785 taxi to runway 27 via taxiways Charlie, Charlie 1, hold short runway 27.
Taxi to runway 27 via taxiways Charlie, Charlie 1, hold short runway 27 Kodiak 785.
Now that we have clearance to taxi, we can click on this taxi button and see exactly what they are asking us to do. And we have this line is drawn by Pilot2ATC to tell us how we are to get to the runway. The yellow icon here is for our aircraft, so this is saying that we come down here to the taxiway and just fly and just taxi right into the taxiway in this area. See if I can get a little bit better view of the runway and taxiways. All right. So there we are. Looks like we're parked on the taxiway, but let's just go ahead. We'll make this U-turn, come down here. Got a little bit of break in the rain for a little while. This Kodiak 100 really wants to taxi. Without any thrust at all. I was able to take off and continue at a pretty good clip. Sometimes it takes a little bit of throttle to get it, but right now we're doing fine. That is the sun in front of us.
5 contact tower on 118.3. Enjoy your morning.
Tower on 118.3 Kodiak 785.
All right, we're now currently on the tower frequency and go back into Pilot2ATC, and we want to make another request. This time the request is to take off, and we'll click this one on the top. Usually the top one is the most obvious choice. Check this to make sure it says what we want it to do, and it does, so we'll just click say it.
Tower Kodiak 785 ready for departure runway 27.
Kodiak 785 wind are 300 at 5 knots, cleared for takeoff, runway 27.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 27 Kodiak 785.
All right, so we have our clearance to take off. Release the brake. Move our conditioner to full. Throttle is still in the idle position. And then bring our conditioner back to the low idle position. Turn our landing lights on and taxi lights off. Try to center up on the runway as best we can. And let's put our parking brakes on. Make sure that everything is set up the way we need it to be set up. Real quick here. And first is the heading setting. Select current heading. Turn on the heading mode of the autopilot. We have the flight speed set to 101 knots, and looks like we have some problems with our generator and alternator coming on. All right, got those turned on, and let's see. This plane likes to lurch to the left when you take off, so we'll give it a little bit of a right rudder trim, and try to remember to center that back after we get into a climb mode. So now we have the parking brakes turned on, conditioner goes to the full idle, and then we move our throttle up until we reach a prop speed RPM of 2,200. 2190 now, 2,200. Release the parking brake and we're off. Try to keep it on the center line as much as possible. This plane likes to turn to the right. That's the torque. Fighting us a bit. Bring our, well, we already have our flaps up. Should have lowered those, but this plane's got a lot of power. We have the autopilot now turned on, so autopilot is in control of the aircraft. Little turbulence there. Hang on, people.
Kodiak 785 contact with a departure on 125.15. Engage.
Departure on 125.15 Kodiak 785. Departure Kodiak 785 climbing to 12,000 feet.
Kodiak 785 good north. Radar contact.
Now we'll reduce our RPMs to 200 or 2,000. Makes it a little easier on the ears. Good for fuel economy. Now that we've set it to 2,000 RPMs, we'll increase the throttle until we come to about 100% of intake gas. That should work for us right there. Now that we are established in our climb, let's bring up Pilot2ATC again. It's a good thing that we're flying IFR. We can't see anything. except for the rain right in front of us. All right. We're currently on our way to the wind-filled waypoint. You'll notice the Pilot2ATC follows us along as we're in the flight. We've looked at some of these things before, but now that we're in the flight, they'll make a little bit more sense, so I'm going to go over them again. At the top of the Pilot2ATC window, there are a number of fields here and buttons to press and so on. So let's take a look at each one of these. On the very left-hand side, there is a time label. This is a timer that you can use to time things during your flight. Clicking once will start the timer. Clicking again will stop the timer, and then clicking this button will reset the timer to 0. Fairly obvious how that works. The waypoint is the current waypoint that we're traveling to is shown here. The distance to the waypoint is next. The desired track to the waypoint is the next field to the right. Then we have the estimated time en route to the waypoint in hours, minutes, and seconds. We have the distance to the destination demonstrated in the next field, 94.8 miles so far. And the distance estimated time en route. How long will it take us to get to our destination? Then we have the distance to the top of descent and the estimated time en route to the top of descent. This field is the first interactive field. At this point, it is showing us the indicated airspeed. We're still in a climb, so the airspeed is about 102 knots. If you click on this, it will change to the true airspeed, and our true airspeed currently is 123 knots. Click on it once again, it will show us what the ground speed is, which is 117 knots, indicating that we have a slight headwind that is slowing us down. And then clicking once more takes us back to the indicated airspeed. Then we have the indicated altimeter reading, telling us how high we are above mean sea level according to the gauge. If we click that, we'll get the actual height above mean sea level. And then clicking it once more will give us the actual height above ground level, which would be important if you weren't flying over the ocean. And then finally clicking it one more time will bring us back to the indicated altimeter reading. Then we have the altimeter setting. The altimeter is in inches here. I think you can change that to what is the name of the other millibars, I guess. You can change that to the other unit, but we use inches normally in the US, so that's what that is. If you click on it, it'll bring up this dialog box where you can enter in another value. Then we have then we have
Center Kodiak 785 at 12,000 feet. Kodiak 785, good morning. Radar contact. Altimeter 3018. Altimeter 3018, Kodiak 785.
All right, then we have the transponder values here, and that by clicking this, we can change the mode. It should be on altimeter mode now. I thought that would be updated automatically when we took off by the Garmin, but apparently not. And the transponder code is here, and if you click on this button, it'll bring up a dialog box where you can change the transponder code or change the mode. One caveat with using this this dialog box is that it's important after you make the changes of the altimeter code to click OK before you do anything else. If you fail to click OK and then you click one of these buttons or close the dialog box, then the value will not be used that you made the change. For example, if I click active again, then it just goes back to whatever is the current code here, which is what we want in this case, so no harm done.
Kodiak 785, good morning. Radar contact.
Along the right here, there are a number of buttons that are used for various functions, and just looking at each one of them quickly, going down from the top, FPL is to control this flight plan window or pane. If you click that, it will close the flight plan pane. Clicking it again will open it up. The FP import will import a flight plan from several different frequently used sources. The Direct To button will bring up a dialog box where you can change the heading of the plane by entering a waypoint or an airport name to go direct to rather than the current waypoint. Then the info button is to get information on the currently selected airport. So we have the San Diego International as the current selection, and so that brings up information about the San Diego airport. We see a screenshot, a top-down screenshot here at the bottom. All of these are parking spaces or gates. If you click on runways and gates, you get some more information about those things up here, and you can even get weather information about the selected airport. In order to select an airport, you have to click, you can, there are several ways of doing it. You can select an airport by clicking the airport name in the flight plan, and now I've selected KLAX, so if I click the info button, we'll get information about Los Angeles. The TERPS button is a very handy feature of Pilot2ATC. It will show you documents from the internet for airports and waypoints and things of this nature, the currently selected airport. And so we have KLAX up here, and we have an info section that has, in this case, diverse vector area takeoff minimums and a document on hotspots. We have a section for approaches, a diagram of the airport, a section for SIDS, and a section for stars. You can also save local charts to your hard drive and configure this to show those. I don't have that set up, so I'm not able to demonstrate that. Autopilot brings up this little control where you can control the autopilot from Pilot2ATC if you wish to do that. Grammar help will bring up a dialog box that you can use to help you learn the common requests that are made to ATC, and it also can help your computer to learn the way that you speak. This button here will bring up the Microsoft speech trainer, where you can train the computer to understand your speech. Then we have a taxi maintenance. I'm not going to click that, but that will open up a dialog box where you can maintain the taxi information of airports. You go to an airport and the taxi information you get from Pilot2ATC doesn't seem to fit that particular airport. You can open up the airport and make modifications to the taxiways so that Pilot2ATC will be better equipped to give you information for that site. And then we've seen the config window several times. Clicking on the config button will open the configuration up where you can make changes. Clicking on config again will close that window. Now over in this section, we'll look at these icons next. The maximize button will maximize the window and the flight plan area. And if we click on the FPL button or the flight plan button over here on the right, we can have the menu show us the full screen, or we can have the map take up the full screen of our window. To go back to normal, just click the button again. Now the info button here will cause information about the currently selected airport or waypoint to be shown here in this area. So KLAX is seen, so you can see its elevation, its magnetic variance. And I believe click on a waypoint, you can get information about the waypoint as well. The target altitude, the position, and the distance to that waypoint. So that's the information button. Frequency gives us frequencies that are near our current location where the airplane is at. Weather information gives us weather for the currently selected airport. Since we don't have an airport selected, it does nothing. Let's go back to KLAX, click weather again, and we can see that at KLAX, Pilot2ATC thinks, Pilot2ATC thinks that it is clear. I'm not sure if that's correct or not. According to, let's take a look at our map again. We still have quite a bit of rain around us, so I suspect that the weather information there is wrong. Looks like we are icing up again, so we better get our pilot pitot heat on and get the windshield on. We'll go ahead and turn on the backup pump and the ice light, and turn on the surface prop to maximize and try to keep from crashing this airplane. Doesn't look like there's too much ice, so I think we're okay. All right, we saw the taxi information before. We can clear that off now. And you must have clearance at the airport where you're located in order for the taxi button to provide you information. If you don't have the clearance, then Pilot2ATC will inform you of that. Then runways will show you runways at the currently selected airport. It just brings up a zoomed in view of the airport. Here's KLAX. Is that KLAX? That doesn't look right. I'm not sure why we're seeing KLAX sign that runway. I'm not sure what that is. Is that oh, that's San Diego, and got a little bug there for some reason. Runways. Okay. Back to KLAX. Runways. There's the LAX runways. I don't know why it showed us that. Interesting. Maybe because I clicked the taxi button and turned that information off before. But a little bug there, but not too bad. And then finally, this approach button will show us information about the approach once it becomes active. At this point, it really doesn't do very much other than shows the name of some of the waypoints, which are already on the screen anyway, so I'm not sure it helps very much at this point. But if you were in flight and ATC assigned you a different approach than the one that you had selected, then clicking this would show you the approach that ATC has given you, and it would not be the same as what you have defined here. All right. And then let's look at these buttons down here. Each of these buttons will change the chart view to one of the other available charts. The low IFR and route charts are there. Currently, I don't believe the VFR charts are working. Server is down currently, but that should be fixed pretty soon. This button up here at the top will basically do the same thing. It will just cycle between all of the maps that are available. This button will open up a dialog box where you can request to see information about any airport that you're interested in. We're a long way from Houston, but KHOU will allow us to focus in at Houston Hobby. We'll just go back to KLAX, and well, we'll do that by using this button to center the map on center the map on the selected airport. We selected KLAX, So we center this. This brings us back to Los Angeles. And so let's look at these buttons, and that will finish our overview of the interface. This button will show ground traffic, and it doesn't seem to show any ground traffic while you're in the air, so I'm suspecting that this only shows ground traffic if you're on the ground. This button will show you any traffic that's in the air. Let's zoom out and see if there's anything going on right now. And it is kind of busy around Los Angeles. This button will center the map in the window, and it will maximize the window as large as it can while still showing you the complete map. This button will center the map on the aircraft, and if Alright, so we have information to go ahead to expect our approach, and it happens to be the approach that we have already in the flight plan. So there's nothing that we need to do right now. And going back here to finish these buttons up, we have a button that will show all the waypoints in the area. We have a button to show the non-directional beacons. There's only one in this area that I'm aware of up here at San Bernardino. We have a button that shows VORs, and there are a few more VORs than NDBs, but kind of hard to see in this view. If we come over here to street, then we can see them a little easier. Maybe terrain is a little bit easier to see. So we have a number of VORs that are viewable. And then this button will show us airports. If we just show airports, this is what happens. And if we click it again, it says it will show us airports that have a hard surface or long runway. And so there's a little change there. And then clicking again will show us just hard surfaces. And then finally click for all of them, not finally, and click once more for none. All right, we're being passed off to approach. So this button will show the radials around the VOR. If you click it 2 times, then one more time we'll close it.
Descent and maintain 8,000 feet, Kodiak 785.
All right, we're going to select a vertical speed of 1,000 and begin our descent to 8,000 feet as we go. Now let's go back into our cockpit and see what's going on. Looks like things are clearing up a little bit on our route to Los Angeles. So hopefully in this flight we will have no surprises as we come down to the airfield, and I'm not very good with surprises when I'm flying. I want things to be planned out way out into the future, and surprises usually ends up getting me in trouble. So do our very best to stay on course and to follow the instructions of ATC as closely as possible. Just saw that I was lurching to the left there because of the rudder input that I put earlier before we took off. I have to remember to recenter that once I get up in the climb and in the cruise. Like we're getting a pretty good airspeed there. Currently 200 knots true airspeed. I'll cut back a little bit. We need to start slowing it down so that we can apply our flaps at the appropriate times. Little warning here: inlet not bypassed.
Descent maintain 5,000 feet, Kodiak 785.
Another flight level change. Plug that in. We're still ascending, so I don't have to change the vertical speed. This icon is about an inlet to the airplane, and when it's very cold and you're in rainy weather, you want that inlet closed or bypassed. And when you first turn this up to bypass, it doesn't automatically clear that out. It takes a few minutes. I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but my guess is that it just takes a few minutes for that bypass to take effect, and once it does, then it changes to get this information, TKS max mode. Still learning this airplane, and I'm not 100% sure what all of these warnings mean, so I need to do some reading up on that. $5,000, I believe, is the height that we need to be at Prendo, and we are still on our way to Seal Beach. So we should be at 5,000 in plenty of time before we come to Prendo. Yes, you can see this little arc tells us where it expects to reach the selected altitude, which is well in advance of where we need to be. I could probably have used VPath to make this descent, which would allow us to stay at higher altitude for longer, but I've had a little bit of trouble getting VPath to work, especially on this particular route. So to be on the safe side, I'm just going ahead and using a vertical speed to make sure that I get down to the right levels.
transition Kodiak 785.
All right. I'm going to go to the program button and activate now the approach. Now if we go back to Pilot2ATC, and select approach. There's still not a lot that it shows us here on this occasion, but we do have this approach that we're following. I'm going to try VPath again, see if we can use VPath to get down to where we need to be for the ILS. I think that's 1,900 feet. And now VPath is armed, and let's make sure that we have the right frequency for the ILS. Get that, I think we can get that in Pilot2ATC. Let's see if we can find that. That doesn't show our frequencies for ILS. Let's use our TERPs and select approach and find the chart for ILS runway 25 right. And the localizer is on 111.1. So let's go to standby, and it says that it's already in. So 111.1 is the correct for nav 1, and it is. So let's we're already set up there.
Altimeter 3018 tower on 120.905 Kodiak 785.
Our VPath did capture, and we're now descending 600 feet per minute.
785 inbound for ILS approach runway 25 right. Kodiak 785 good morning. Radar contact. Continue ILS to runway 25 right call when established on final. Continue ILS to runway 25 right will call when established on final Kodiak 785.
There's the airport on our left, and we'll be flying into the right-hand runway of the two runways on the left. So now we're making our turn on the final. We've got nice weather, it appears, coming in from the landing. Clouds have happily moved into perfect position for this descent. Select approach. And now we've captured the glide slope and the localizer, and we're on our way to descend into Los Angeles International. We're about 3 miles out, so I'm going to back off a little bit on our speed. I need to get down to 138 before I can lower the flaps to the first notch. Got our landing lights on, and we'll go one notch of flaps at this point. Just about 2 miles out from the final approach fix. 6 or 7 miles to the airport, and about 3 minutes until we reach our destination. And we have a happy rainbow, part of one. Miles now to the runway. The only thing that could happen now to foul us up is if airplane runs out on the runway. Thank you.
Clear to land runway 25 right, Kodiak 785.
Little wind. Forgetting my flaps this time. I keep forgetting things as I'm doing things and talking on the video, but looked like we got right down to the correct speed at the right
100.
time. A little long in the
40,
descent here,
30,
but we've got a lot of room.
20, 10, 10, 10.
Kodiak 785 exit runway enabled.
Airspeed allotted.
Not the best running landing I've ever made, but not the worst either. Okay, we're going to stop right here and pull up ATC or Pilot2ATC again, and we're still on the tower frequency, and so let's we want to land. We want to park in general aviation.
Kodiak 785 request taxi to general aviation ground. Kodiak 785 contact Los Angeles ground on 121.44 taxi clearance. Ground on 121.44 taxi clearance. Kodiak 785.
All right, and now I did that just so we could get the change to the ground radio, and now we have to ask again for taxi clearance.
Kodiak 785 request taxi to general aviation ground.
Kodiak 785 taxi to general aviation parking via taxiways Bravo, Charlie 5, Charlie, Charlie 3.
Taxi to general aviation parking via taxiways Bravo, Charlie 5, Charlie, Charlie 3, Kodiak 785.
Okay, so we have our taxi clearance. Let's take a look at our taxi route. And so we just come down here and taxi in to the GA. I click this button down here, which shows the ground traffic. And just as I expected, if you're on the ground, then the ground traffic shows up. Otherwise, it's not visible. So let's go ahead and taxi on in to the GA tarmac. And then we can shut things down. Well, it looks like we got, I see a taxi sign in the runway. So my new taxi, glitch in my new taxiways, taxi sign software. I don't think that was in the default signage. Hopefully I can just run through that thing without too much damage to my aircraft. good to turn off the landing lights when you leave the runway. And we're still getting a little rain. Glad I brought my umbrella. We're almost at our parking spot. We'll pull in here and shut the thing down and give our concluding remarks. All right, we're finally at our parking spot, and we can start to shut down the airplane and talk a little bit about Pilot2ATC again, draw some conclusions. Pilot2ATC is not the perfect application. There are a few bugs in the thing from time to time, and it can be difficult to use, but if you are persistent and just be patient, try to learn how it operates as well as how Microsoft Flight Simulator operates. It is possible to learn the system and make use of the ATC instructions as they come along. One of the hardest things to get used to is the changes that sometimes ATC will throw at you. It doesn't always follow the plan that you have loaded up into Pilot2ATC. So even if you have perfect synchronization between the GPS in your system and Pilot2ATC, you may still get a change, and that can throw you for a loop. But on the other hand, that often happens. You'll file in real life, you file a plan that ATC will accept, but then ATC will make a change somewhere in the document in the flight for some reason, and they'll have a reason for that. And one of the things about good piloting is learning how to handle those exceptions. And so as you become more and more familiar with that, you'll learn how to do that as you go along. So I think Pilot2ATC is a good program. I enjoy using it. I hope to use it more in the future than I have in the past, now that I'm getting to understand it a little bit better. And perhaps we'll have some other videos with Pilot2ATC in the future. If you've watched all 4 of these videos, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. And I hope that you've gained something from them as well. Have good luck and enjoy your flight.